Hi BookTube, it's Gina, and today I am going to tag myself for Tag Tuesday. No one tagged me on this, but this is such a fun tag that I really wanted to do it. I saw Summer at Cozy Reading with Quaker Cats do this a couple days ago, and then today I saw Mindy at Mindy's Book Journey do this tag, and it reminded me that I really wanted to do this. This is a tag created by Jeremy Fee, and it is authors I have read the most by. Now, I have not been tracking my reading for very long. I started tracking it on Goodreads a few years ago, but before that I didn't really keep track, and I have a terrible memory of exactly what I read. So I'm going to sort of do a little morph of this tag, and I'm going to combine books I have read the most with books I own the most of by a particular author, because it sort of corresponds. It may not be exact, but I figure it's the closest I'm going to get, because I just don't remember how many books I read years and years ago. If I was tracking, Danielle Steele may have won, because I think in high school I read a lot of Danielle Steele books, but I don't remember, so I'm not going to count those. So let's get started on books and authors I have read the most by and own the most of. That is a terrible grammatical sentence, but since that's what Jeremy called it, that's what I'm going with. Number 10 is Iain Pears. I own 8 Iain Pears books. They're over here. Iain Pears wrote a whole bunch of mystery series, art history mystery that I read all of back in the 90s, and then also Instance of the Finger Post, and more recently Arcadia. These are wonderful big old chunky books, and I own 8 of his books, and I've read more because I don't own the whole art history mystery series. They're not published anymore, so I'm trying to find them used as I stumble across them. Number 9 is a tie between 2 very disparate authors. They're about as different as can be. I'm going to say number 9 is May Sarton, who passed away, but was a wonderful diarist. She did The House by the Sea and Plant Dreaming Deep, a lot of diaries of her life. And she also wrote fiction and poetry. And a sample of one of her fiction novels is The Magnificent Spinster. It's not a wonderful title. I just love that title of this book. And I own 9 of these. I've probably read more because I don't own all of the books of hers that I've read. But that's a close approximation. And then she is tying with Brandon Sanderson, who is, let's do this one since I haven't shown you this one yet, is a fantasy author and a current fantasy author. This is Elantris. I only own, I think, 2 or 3 of his books, but I've read, oh wait, no, I'm lying. I wrote 11 down in my notes. Now I don't remember if that's 11 of his that I have read or 11 that I own. I don't think I own that many, so it must be 11 that I have read. So that is Brandon Sanderson, a fantasy author who I also absolutely love. It must be 11 that I've read, because these are those big chunky fantasy books that I don't usually buy because they're so huge. I buy them on my Kindle. So I must have 11 of his that I've read, combined on my Kindle and on a couple that I own. Not very many that I own, though, in a paper copy. Number 7 is A.S Byatt with 9 that I own. And A.S Byatt is a 1980s and 90s literary author. She's also written some more current. This is Still Life. It's the first in the Frederica Quartet. There are 4 of those. And then she's got, you can't really see them, but the children's book and some more current fiction that might also even be sort of a continuation of this. But look at that. I love that cover. And so that is A.S. Byatt at 9. I have owned 6. My notes are pretty terrible on this, so I'm just going to go with that. Okay, number 6 is Rosamund Pilcher at 16 owned. Rosamund is right here. I own all of her books. She did actually write some books that were under a pseudonym. I don't own any of those. I haven't read any of those. I don't think they're in print anymore, so I can't seem to get my hands on those, but I'd love to get them. And that is Rosamund Pilcher at number 6. Number 5 is Robin Hobb, another fantasy author who's right here. I only own a few of her books, again, because they're those huge, chunky fantasy novels, but I've read 16 of her books. I read the entire Realm of the Elderling series and absolutely loved it. It was wonderful. But I only own a few of those. I'm buying these as I find them at secondhand or at a thrift store, just because I love them. But I don't with fantasy novels have the urge to own the entire series for the most part, just because the books are so huge. I don't want my shelves to just be shelves of a big, long, chunky fantasy series. I like to intersperse things. So I'll buy them as I find them, but I don't have a necessary big burning desire to just buy the entire series to be on my shelves. Some of those I read, most of those I read on my Kindle. Some of them I bought, some of them I checked out at the library, just depending on where I was in the series. But that was a wonderful reading experience, The Realm of the Elderlings. When I read that, I read them all start to finish. I just plowed through it, and it was absolutely one of the most sublime reading experiences I've ever had. I didn't love everything about every book, but the experience itself was just wonderful. Okay, number 4 is Robertson Davies at 15 owned, and Mr. Davies is up here. You can't really see him very well, but oh, sorry about that. I forgot to turn my Do Not Disturb on. And I'm not starting over. I don't know how to edit, so that's going to stay in. My phone rang. A Robertson Davies. And I went through a Robertson Davies phase back in the 90s when I was doing my literary fiction and just absolutely loving it. Number 3 is Iris Murdoch. Same time frame. I was reading Iris Murdoch back in the 90s. I've got a bunch of these orange spine penguin editions of hers. This is An Accidental Man, The Black Prince, and A Word Child. And I've got a bunch of the little small paperbacks, and you can't really see them. I've got a bunch of hardback. Let me show you this one because this one's so pretty. This is The Sea, which I think is probably her most famous book. Man, it's crazy. This is like the Breaking Bad of novels. It just is off the rails in a really good way. Iris Murdoch is 23 books owned. And I've read most of them. I haven't read all of them, but I've read most of them. Number 2 is Miss Reed. My love, Miss Reed. I own 23 of her books. Sorry, you're a little bit crooked here. I need to get my tripod. 23 Miss Reed books. I grabbed one of my favorite samples. This is fresh from the country, one of her standalones. She was writing in 1940s, 1950s. A couple of long series, Thrush Green and the Village Fairacre series. And then she's got some standalones too, which are wonderful. And then, drum roll please, My number one most read and most owned books is our March Mystery Madness favorite, Agatha Christie. Dun, dun, dun. I own 46 of her books. 47. I just remember there's one in the other room I forgot to count. But I probably read all of these. I don't remember if I've read all of these because to be honest, she's an author that sometimes I forget what I've read. But look at these wonderful little, these are the little Dell paperbacks here. I've got a lot of these. I've just been buying them over the years. I've got some duplicate copies just because I love the way these look so much. And I own 46. So the winner is Agatha Christie. I am not going to tag anyone since I just tagged myself, but I think this is a really fun tag. So I would encourage anyone that has not done it to go ahead and do it. And I'm going to go ahead and adjourn for today. Thanks. Bye.